What is up, fellow summoners, and welcome to the channel today for the final video in our class breakdown series. We are taking a look at today the Cosmic class, which I've really not been looking forward to that much. The Cosmic class, I believe, probably across the board, people can agree that I think it's probably the worst, the least fun to play, whatever category you want to put it into. It's kind of the bottom when you compare class to class. As far as being full of characters that have a lot of usefulness in the game. It's unfortunate because the Cosmic class is home to a lot of potentially really cool characters, but I think a lot of them have missed the mark, unfortunately. I will continue to follow the same pattern in this video that I've done with the other class breakdown videos, in that I'll break everything up between a bottom, mid, and top tier. Honestly, I could have just made it top and bottom tier, probably would be easier, but I'll continue to follow the pattern that we've done in the other videos. We'll talk about who is worth awakening with the Cosmic Awakening Stone. We'll talk about who's worth ranking up, even if they are unduped. And then my overall, I guess, feeling as far as the class goes, which I've already given most of that away, but my overall outlook as far as maybe the top 2 or 3 characters in the Cosmic class. The purpose of all this, remember, is to try and give some direction to those that are newer to the game, trying to build up a roster. Really need to focus on those that are in the top tier to put your resources into. Remember, though, we're looking at the Cosmic class specifically. Those that are in the top or mid tier in the Cosmic class does not necessarily mean if they were matched up across other classes that they would even be in mid tier. So do keep all of that in mind. It's all relative. We'll start with the bottom tier here. And there's probably more characters I could have put in the bottom tier, but because I've got 3 of them, I separated them out a bit. Groot, for me, unfortunately, is in the bottom of the tier. He's an interesting character. I like him. I think he looks cool. I just don't think he has any spot in the game. Does not hit hard at all. If you manage to try and get some of his, I don't even know what they're called, his charges, those Groot things he throws off, becomes angry. I don't know. I can't explain it to you other than I know he's not worth putting any sort of resources or time into. He's an okay defender because he can shrug off debuffs, can shrug off parries, depending upon how many points in Limber you have. In bottom tier Alliance War gameplay, he's an okay defender, but really not worth putting resources into. Another one that came to mind here while I was kind of ranking these bottom tier was Carnage, which I'm kind of sad to say. Carnage is probably, or was probably, one of the most anticipated characters to come to the game this year. People had been looking for him and asking for him to come for a long time, and he pretty much just fell on his face, unfortunately. I understand the character design, what they were trying to implement, but honestly, it takes so long to be able to make him an okay character that by the time you get him to a stage where he's doing decent amount of damage, the fight is probably almost over, or you could have taken somebody in and finished the fight off like 5 minutes earlier. So while I like him, like Groot, unfortunately, as an actual character, really not worth putting any sort of resources into unless you're needing the prestige. He is a fairly high prestige. Other characters I've got down in the bottom tier right now is Black Bolt. Black Bolt I've had up at 550 ever since way back in the day. He was part of the perfect block team with Magneto and Cyclops. That since has come out of the game, and I just have not been able to rank him down. He is okay. I used to use him in AQ if you need a poison immune character, if you're running up against techs. Does have, like I said, you got the poison immunity. The stun chance with the S1 is nice, but overall damage output is very, very low. And if you need somebody who's poison immune and that can stun, there are better options, aka Hulk. So if you got him down in the bottom tier. Another character, which probably people are going to be upset I'm putting her here, but is Gamora. Yes, every once in a while you will get the assassination with your special. Will give you a decent crit here and there, but unfortunately there is no other utility wrapped up in her. If she had some sort of power control or regen, or just really anything outside of a chance to have a high crit, she probably would be bumped up pretty high in a class that is lacking a lot of utility. But unfortunately, that is kind of the story for the Cosmics. She hits hard, and that's kind of where it ends. She is a little bit reliant upon bleeds, though. That's why I've got her in the bottom class. Kamala Khan is another character right next to her here. Kamala Khan, if you take the time to build up the Furies, She does hit hard, again has poison immunity. However, there are other characters in Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel who do pretty much equal damage, who do not take as much time to build up the Furies or have to worry about them falling off or anything like that. The hold back and a hold down heavy to build up the charges, it's just too clunky. It just really doesn't work for normal gameplay. You won't find her being used anywhere. Prestige is not great. Definitely have got her in the bottom tier. And then, unfortunately, we've got Ronin, who I also like Ronin. I had him in the mid tier, but really when I got to thinking about it, his edict is pretty cool. There's been a couple times in the game where that's been really nice, as far as the more buffs the enemy has active, the longer that his stun will last with his S1. But that is such a very kind of unique situation that you really won't find yourself in a lot. And again, like I mentioned with Black Bolt, if you need somebody who's poison immune and need somebody who can chain stuns together, you're much better off taking up Hulk. And I think that's the biggest thing that he suffers from, is that his damage output. And again, we're looking at 4-star characters across the board here. I know I just looked at my 5-star, but we're looking at 4-star characters here across the board. As a 4-star character, his damage output is not great. You're only going to be able to awaken him if you happen to get him in Labyrinth of Legends. If you run through the easy path, you can dupe him there, or you're going to have to use a Cosmic Awakening Gem, which I don't think it's worth that either. So I've got him, I think, unfortunately, in the bottom tier. Really would like to see a refresh on him, but for now we've got him in the bottom tier. Moving up into the mid tier now, things get slightly better, I guess. We've got Superior Iron Man. Superior Iron Man is a decent all-around questing character. I've seen him used in AQ a little bit here and there. One of the things that does benefit him is he's got pretty good synergies to pair up. You know, that's a pretty good team that you can take in Cap, Daredevil, and Thor, depending upon what you're doing. Also, when he is awakened, his Arc Overload, just like the classic Iron Man, is a good regen that's going to kick in. So he makes a decent character for questing and in AQ if you don't have better options. Symbiote Spider-Man, I've only got here as a 5-star, so I'll show him. Symbiote Spider-Man, he, again, like a lot of other characters in Cosmic Class, hits hard. I think he's a little bit more intriguing, though, just because of the incredibly long armor breaks that he places on the enemy. If you look right there, Heavy Attacks has a 100% chance to apply an armor break for 80 seconds. So you can build that up to a very high number. And then if you look at the S2, it's got a 100% chance to crit. So the interaction between the armor breaks and the S2 are pretty interesting. You can see some big numbers pop off there. When he's awakened, every time you use a special, he's got evasion that drops in. But really, if you're looking for a defender, Classic Spider-Man is better. I don't really know necessarily where you would use him. Again, because he doesn't have any other utility that you can pair with his damage. He's hard to suggest for any sort of AQ or AW. But I guess time will tell now that we've got him as a 5-star. Maybe the chance that or not being able to gain evasion with an S1 or S2 may make him a decent Alliance War attacker. But we'll have to see. But definitely can't overlook those armor breaks, and the automatic chance to crit with the S2 puts him in mid-tier for me. Other characters we've got in mid-tier, unfortunately I don't have him here, would be King Groot. King Groot is very tanky. When he's awakened, he's got a good regen. He's got a chance to poison, excuse me, not a chance to poison, but he poisons with his S2. I think a fairly decent questing character, story quest, maybe even special events here and there. Overall damage output, though, from King Groot is a little bit low. I wish that they would have buffed his damage output a little bit, because being able to pair him with a regen, I think, would have made a very strong pairing, especially in the Cosmic class. It really needs somebody who's got a good regen. But for me, unfortunately, because of the lack of damage, that holds him back into the mid-tier. Venom Pool and Venom, I've got both of those in mid-tier. Venom is a fun character to play. Pretty good damage output, depending upon what buffs that you gain. Plus, when he's awakened, he does extra critical damage when the enemy is bleeding. An okay defender in lower tiers, unblockable S2. I still see him on there from time to time. Some new characters, new players to the game have a difficult time dealing with how quick the character model is for how big he is. And you can actually get a decent amount of kills in lower tiers. Venompool. Venompool, I would say, is only in mid-tier here just because of the lack of characters that have heal block, regen, and several other things that he can do with his continuity memory. Man, that's a difficult signature ability to say. But yeah, he's got a little bit of utility built into him. Not great necessarily in any one area, but again, in a class that is missing so many characters who can do this, I think that does put him solidly in the mid-tier spots. And then I think to finish out, no, we got a couple more here. I've got Phoenix in my mid-tier, which I think the reason I got Phoenix in mid-tier is her high prestige, one of the highest prestiges in the game. Rise of the Phoenix will keep you from dying, basically gives you a second chance, plus a little bit of a regen. Obviously, she needs to be awakened to get that. The problem that I have with Phoenix is similar to Kamala Khan and Carnage in that it's just too, I don't want to say it's too complex, but it's just too cumbersome to take the time to build up everything that you need to build up in order to make them a decent character when you have a lot of other champs across the board who you don't have to take so much time to put everything together and worry about that. You can just focus on intercepting or blocking or parrying, just focus on core gameplay, and you can still get equal, if not more damage than you get from characters here. So her prestige helps to prop her up. She does do good damage if you take the time to learn how to use her. Armor break, incinerate, fun character to play with. I think definitely mid-tier in the Cosmic class. And then finally, we do have Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel, who are the exact same character, exact same stats, exact same awakened ability. Both of them are decently fun to play with. I know as 5-star characters, when you have them awakened especially, they do a decent amount of damage output. When they're awakened, they gain additional damage based upon the power that they have. But again, outside of poison immunity, there's just not a lot of utility here or any reason to bring them into AW or into AQ without being able to pair that damage with something else. So yeah, if you look across the board here, there's a lot of very similar characters in the mid-tier that's kind of all wrapped around damage output with really not a whole lot to add to that. Then in the top tier, let's focus on some positives. We've got Hyperion, obviously, is at the top of the Cosmic class. Really very, very good damage output. I think it's not just the fact that he does damage output, but it's the fact that he can do it in several different ways. If you look at the S1, his special attack 1 has a chance to incinerate. That incinerate is very strong and is also increased by the amount of furies that you have active, which he gains furies much more easily than Kamala Khan does with the holding down of the attack, holding down your heavy attack to gain them. Basically, parry stun, use the heavy, you'll gain between, I think it's like 1 to 4. Is it 1 to 4, I think? There's a chance to proc 1 to 4 fury attacks, lasting for 10 seconds, which that will be boosting up your S1, boosting up all the other damage you do. S2 has a chance to stun for 4 seconds, has a chance to armor break. His S3 with his cosmic charges, I won't take the time to read through all this, but his cosmic charges also increase his attack power, increase his physical resistance. Those can be converted over into regens. Plus, he also has a chance to gain power. He's got a power gain buff, excuse me, that he gets. So overall, you'll see him put a lot in Alliance War on defense, especially on increased power gain nodes. I don't know why his right wrist looks so weird in that picture. I just noticed that. But anyway, good defender, good offensive character, good for questing, story questing. Road to the Labyrinth, I know a lot of people used him with the Incinerate on the S1 to get through Safeguard. Decently high prestige, doesn't have to be awakened. So certainly when you're looking at the Cosmic class, and in a class that is missing a lot of utility characters, I think he brings a lot to the game. Certainly sitting at the top for me in the Cosmics. Angela, we'll touch on next. Angela, I'm not sure has really any equals in the game right now when you're talking about 4-star characters as far as her potential for damage output. She is a little bit confusing at first, but once you take a little bit of time to understand how she gains her fury, she's actually very simplistic to use. It's basically just this balance of using your S1 before you get to your S2 constantly, to keep yourself with the maximum number of Fury charges you can get. Once you're there, she's got very, very good stats. As a 4-star character, light attacks, I've seen crit very easily between 25 and 3,500. Medium attacks critting for well over 4,000. She's an absolute monster. Does have a little bit of regen built into her. Every time she loses 10% of her health, maximum health, she kicks in this regeneration buff. Unfortunately, it's not a real strong regeneration. It's not like you're going to be gaining all of that damage back that you lost. So, not a character that you can kind of lean on if you're getting low in health to be able to boost back up. It's not that kind of a regen. It's just one of those things to kind of help here and there if you do manage to get hit. I think she's a decent character in AQ. I use her a lot in special events and in questing, story questing, special event questing. Can't use her in Alliance War, unfortunately, with all the buffs. Mystic Dispersion, just going to tear through her. But yeah, I really do enjoy playing with her. Her awakened ability, again, like Hyperion, she does not need to be awakened to be a good character, so you've got that as well. Then I've also got, in the top tier, I've got Thor, and I've also got Drax, which I've got Thor way down here. Still don't have him awakened, and then I've got Drax up here, who I've had awakened for a long, long time. In fact, yeah, he's at level 80. Both of these characters, I think, are very similar to one another. Both gain Furies. Drax focuses more with his damage output, being towards the bleed side. Very strong bleeds from Drax. Whereas Thor focuses more on being able to stun and armor break and just physical damage. But I think comparable-wise, if you put them back-to-back and the characters can bleed, then I think it's very similar damage output. I would say probably Thor edges Drax out just a tiny bit, just because of the chance to stun and armor break. Also doesn't have to... the enemy that you're fighting, if they're bleed immune, it's not going to affect your damage output. But really, both of them are very strong candidates to put in the top of the Cosmic class. I know Thor was very much God tier before patch 12.0. I really wish I could have played with him back in the day, but obviously didn't have him, still don't have him awakened. But yeah, I think those are both in a class that is full of characters that do damage. I think those top 4 that I just mentioned, Drax, Thor, Angela, Hyperion, I think all 4 of them do equal, if not a little bit more damage than everybody else below them. Plus, they pack a little bit more utility here and there as well. Characters that are worth awakening, and this is a very, very difficult subject to talk about because honestly, there just aren't that many really good options. Honestly, if I had Hyperion and he was not awakened and you wanted to spend your Cosmic Awakening Gem, I wouldn't fault you if you wanted to use it on Hyperion. His cosmic potential is really not a game changer, but certainly does help him by increasing his buff duration. Allows you to have longer power gains, allows you to build more Furies and have them longer. So it's not like it's a bad idea to awaken him. He just doesn't necessarily gain all that much over and above his normal unawakened gameplay. But again, in a class where there just aren't that many strong characters, I don't think it's a bad idea to awaken him. I would say behind him, Thor also benefits quite a bit from being awakened. His awakened ability, I know it's not going to talk about it here, but basically when you get a parry stun, it armor breaks, which I don't know now since post 12.0 how many you can stack. I think it might only be like 2, but still does help increase damage output, helps remove armor up from the enemy. Phoenix, you know, if you or your alliance, you know, you're really looking to push AQ towards endgame, she is a big prestige bump. So for prestige only, I could see you using it on her. And then King Groot, again, I don't have him here. King Groot actually has a pretty good regeneration during his cooldown phase. I wish I had a King Groot here to talk about, but that might be another potential option to go into with a Cosmic Awakening Gem. As you can see, there just aren't really that many good options. If you don't want to use it on Hyperion, I understand that. Maybe just hold on to it. Wait to see what comes to the game here next, if we've got any decent cosmic characters coming that you can use it on. As far as characters to rank up Unduped, there are a couple good options here. I touched on both of them already. Hyperion and Angela are both still very strong characters to rank up when they are unduped. Drax, I know Drax probably benefits the most of those initial 3 there from being awakened, with his enthrall, basically a chance to build up his furies, but still has strong bleeds, still pretty good damage output overall, unawakened. Venom Pool, again, in a class that's lacking such diversity and people who can heal block and regen and all that. Venom Pool can still do all of that even when he is unawakened, so that might not be a bad option to rank up as well. If we are ranking the characters, I'm just going to give you a top 3. Do I want to give a top 3? Okay, we'll give a top 3. I've got Hyperion clearly at number 1. I think I've got Angela at number 2. And then the third spot, I think, is tied between Drax and Thor. I think I'm going to give it to Drax slightly, just because Angela is very similar to Thor in that neither one of them cause bleeds. It's just pure damage output. And Angela edges out Thor in that department. So if you've already got Hyperion and Angela, it's not a bad idea to also grab somebody who's got a decent bleed there. So that's where I would put Drax at. And with that, it's going to wrap up our class breakdown series. The next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to try my best to rank top 10 characters in the game, which I know that is going to probably cause some controversy. People are going to have opinions all over the place, but I always welcome it. It'd be a lot of fun. And then hopefully in that video, or maybe we'll do it separately, we'll also talk about characters that are worth using generic awakening stones on. So in line with these class breakdowns, we still have those 2 things coming down the pike. Alright guys, if you have any comments, by all means, you're welcome to leave them below. Follow me over on Twitter as well. My link to that will be in the description. Alright guys, till I see you all in the next video, have a great day.